Hello everyone, this is Substitute Squirrel again, and we're going to continue on doing what we were doing before we got hijacked by Actual Squirrel. Today is going to be Act 16, Random Acts of Cinema, the Equalizer Trilogy, Equalizer 2, Antoine F., and Richard W. So, before we got distracted by Actual Squirrel, who sent us off onto a Don Quixote adventure, which is only appropriate of Actual Squirrel, we were talking about the first one, which there was kind of a loose tie-in, considering that a huge part of the plot in Equalizer, the one that we were reviewing on Act 14, is a lot about Don Quixote and impossible adventures and that kind of stuff. And the whole idea of him picking little things that change people's lives. So there's actually some unique parallels. How like you get the Sancho Panza character in Don Quixote, kind of like in the one character he's helping who becomes a security guard in the first one, and him helping and elevating other people on what looks like pointless quests, I guess, or useless quests or undoable quests. So the second one starts off, he's moving on, he's no longer working at it's about 4 years later, it was filmed in 2018, and he is no longer working at the Home Depot-esque place. He's now an Uber driver, essentially, or like a taxi driver of some sort. I think this is pre-Uber, but the idea being he's an on-call taxi driver kind of guy. So today what we're going to do is walk through kind of a little bit on Antoine Fuqua, a little bit on the writer, who is Richard, get my name right here, Richard Wenk, a little bit about them, some about the movie, plot, that kind of stuff, and then we'll tie it up with a review. Then whatever rabbit holes or rat's nests we can find along the way too. So let's go here. The writer is Richard Wenk. I think one of the reasons I'm fascinated by the fact of these three people is, and this is not uncommon, but not as often as you think, all three movies, the sort of heart of it, the behind the screen camera stuff, the idea people, that kind of stuff, was three people. So in some sense, you're having like a big book like Lord of the Rings that got tore up into three pieces. And so you have a sort of epic scale envisioned by three people put in three different movies. So the second one is probably the most personal of all of them. If you hit the balance point of the first one, you have that personal, his relationship, and you also have him as adventure mode. And this one's probably the most personal of all of them. It's written by Richard Wenk, as I mentioned before. His first major thing, when I looked on Wikipedia to find out, was he wrote the story for The Mechanic, the Jason Statham one, in 2011. In 2012, he got involved with Equalizer 2, or Expendables 2. And then in 14, 2 years later, he got involved with Denzel Washington and Antoine Fuqua and started doing the Equalizer trilogies. They've actually done 4 films together. They've done the 3 Equalizer movies and the Magnificent Seven, which maybe I'll talk a little bit about in the last one, but not today. So that's his story. Apologize, this is a really bad bumpy one, but I'm like thinking about packing. Our actual squirrel keeps sneaking in and thinking about packing today and how tomorrow's going to be an adventure because actual squirrel gets to pack everything up and get everything loaded up so he can leave on Tuesday. As a writer, he started off as a director, did some stuff. He's a writer dude. He's wrote a bunch of stuff. The thing I find most interesting is that you have the three-headed dragon or three-headed monster of Washington, Wenk, and Fuqua making a series of movies. Antoine Fuqua is more interesting to me. He is a very established director. He doesn't get a lot of credit for his stuff. He started off as a music video director, and he directed Coolio's Dangerous Minds, which caught the eyes of Bruckheimer and Company, who had produced it, and that really helped launch his career. In 1998, he worked on The Replacement Killers. It's a Hong Kong-esque movie, or I'm not sure. I think it was American produced, but it was Hong Kong money, or Hong Kong style. kung fu style, that kind of thing. Came out right after everyone was discovering Jackie Chan was cool in America, and that starts Chow Yun-fat. In 2001, Antoine Winfield directed Training Day, and that's when he met Denzel Washington. That's when that relationship started. He did Olympus Has Fallen, the first of the Olympus series, in 2013. 2014, this is where the trifecta started kicking into the Equalizer stuff. And then 2016, he did Magnificent Seven. 18, he did the Equalizer 2, which we'll be talking about. 2019 is probably the next thing that's interesting. And he has a little bit, well, we'll get into that too. That way we can finish up all the people stuff today. He did a documentary, it's about a 3-hour documentary about Muhammad Ali, which was highly regarded and very well respected. He said, I haven't seen it yet, I can't vouch for it either way, but it's called What's My Name, and it's about Muhammad Ali. But it was very well regarded. I don't know if it won any awards, stuff like that. I think it's on HBO if you want to see it. And then in 2023, a couple months ago, they released Equalizer 3. He's a pretty prolific action director and action producer. So that's kind of where his touch is. And those are the kind of movies that make money but really aren't always considered great films. So he's more the workaday guy who just basically supports the artsy people. On to the movie. Equalizer 2 starts off, he's essentially a taxi driver. He's interacting with people. He has different stories he's working with of just getting to know the people, and you see how he's just getting more adjusted into actually integrating into society. The movie starts off with a very brutal murder, and one of his friends from the previous military life named Susan, she goes in and investigates it, and she dies. She gets killed. So then her husband, who's played by Bill Paxton, I think, no, it's either Bill Paxton or Bill Pullman, I forget which one, the guy from Independence Day. That's Bill Paxton. He asks Robert McCall to look into this to figure out what's happening. How did his wife, who's a very good person, not real flashy, why did she die? Who killed her? That kind of thing. So he starts opening up these boxes and starts discovering that there's more going on. There's sort of a mirror story involving other people trying to adjust to private life afterwards, and other parts of his life, which for plot reasons I'm not going to go in too deep because I want you to discover it if you haven't seen it. You start discovering that decisions he made when he went out of the job that he was in, being the mercenary or just the man who can do things, affected other people, and then they made choices that are now affecting his life. As far as the tone and stuff, it's very similar to Equalizer. It's one of the things I'll say again. They have a specific beat or tone they're running through all the movies. They're really trying to capture more of the drama of what it's like to be him as he's adjusting into a second life. The action is a lot leaner than you think it is, and in some ways it is, again, the biggest complaint that you're going to see in the next video. It's kind of a bait and switch again. It's not nearly as action heavy as you think. The dialogue is solid, the actors come in, they do a good job. The characters, as you think about it, kind of feel like the rest of the movie where it blurs into sort of a pleasant moment that you've seen it. I don't think any one of the characters are specifically impressive, but I don't think they're badly acted. I think they serve the story well. And it furthers the idea that I think this is very much that sort of 90s cable trilogy that would go on where you'd sit and watch it and enjoy it. They'd tighten it down a little bit more, and then you'd spend your afternoon watching Equalizer. One of the things that, box office-wise, it did pretty well. It did a little bit better than the first one, but, it did well. It actually opened almost identically to the first one in 2014. Let's see here. So now we're going to go into the reviews here. Do that. So what I do with Equalizer 2, I would probably, for me personally, it's about a 6 out of 10. I'd probably fall into it, or I would watch it again if I saw it. I would enjoy it. I'd have pleasant memories. I'd probably forget parts of the plot, but then if it's back on again, I'd watch it again and go, oh yeah, I enjoyed it. It made me happy. But as far as structure and stuff goes, it's probably 7 out of 10 as far as design, because it's well made. The story knows what it's doing. It's very well directed, that kind of thing. So you're not wasting your time or watching a bad movie. I've said this a couple times, and I think it's going to come up. So if someone wants to count and turning it into a drinking game, it's much more of a drama than an action movie. And even if you remember, you're going to remember a couple of action sequences, but it takes time for them to build it. And so if you're looking for a straight action movie, you're going to be closer to my review than probably the quality of the movie. If you're going into more of a like a Denzel Washington drama thing with some action sprinkled in, you'll probably get it closer to 7 out of 10. So that's part 2 of the trilogy. Up next will be part 3, and then we'll tie up the trilogy, and then I should be back for my trip, and then Actual Squirrel will be fully enabled, and I have no idea where Actual Squirrel will be or what Actual Squirrel will talk about. But otherwise, if you like what you saw, go ahead and hit the like button. If you have any comments about the trilogy that you've seen, parts that you really like, parts that you think are really cool, or things that maybe I missed in describing it, go ahead and put some comments on the bottom. Otherwise, if you like where this is running, like you like the randomness of me, Squirrel, or even Substitute Squirrel, go ahead and hit subscribe. And everyone have a good day. Thank you.